Hello there and welcome to Lower 6th Further Maths Pure Core 1 past paper, June 2014. These questions come from. Here we're looking today at a new question to Pure Core 1. This is a typical percentage change question to do with matrices. So we have Tiandre inherits £3,000 from a long lost relative. He decides to invest all the money in either savings account, stocks and shares, or his pension. Tiandre decides to put 3 times as much money in his pension as he does his stocks and shares. Over the course of 1 year, the savings account returns 2.5%, the stocks and shares lose 4%, the pension gains 3%. After 1 year, Tiandre increases his total inheritance by £50. Form and solve a matrix equation to find out how much of each financial asset Tiandre invests initially. So what we need to do first here is to create those 3 equations as we have 3 variables and invert that matrix. So what we have first is the total amount of each of the savings schemes. Stocks and shares add savings account add pension equals 3,000. The next way we do here is Tiandre decides to put 3 times as much money in his pension as he does the stocks and shares. So that means that if we times the stocks and shares by 3, we get the same amount he put in his pension. Or in other words, 3 stocks and shares take with pension will equal 0, and that's a bit easier to put in our matrix a bit later. The next one comes from the percentage changes. So we increase our stocks and shares, the savings account by 2.5%. So that's 0.25 amount of the money put in his savings account. We lose 4%. That's lose of 0.04 on the stocks and shares. And we gain 0.03 times the amount was in the pension. And this increased the inheritance by £50. So what we now have to do here is we have to now input the coefficients of these equations into a matrix and invert that matrix. So the values that go inside the 3 by 3 matrix come from the coefficients on the equations, and make sure they go into the column, into the rows in order. The savings account coefficient goes first, the stocks and shares coefficient goes second, and the pension goes third when you're going along your rows. So 1 for the stocks and shares, for the savings account, 1 for the stocks and shares, and 1 for the pension on the first row. And on the first row as well, you need 3,000, as that's how much is in all 3 of those accounts put together. The next one is 3SS minus P. Now going along the variables here, I have no savings account variable here, 3 on the stocks and shares, and minus 1 on the pension. And this will equal 0. And then going along this row here, 0.025, 0.04, negative 0.04, and 0.03. And that will equal 50 on the bottom row here. So all that's left for us to do now is to invert this matrix. 1, 1, 1, 0, 3, minus 1, 0.025, minus 0.04, 0.03, inverse, and then times it by the vector of 3,050. Now I'll do most of this calculation on the calculator, so go to option 4, enter your first matrix, so you need to hit 3 by 3 for the dimensions first, and enter all of your values. Then you need to create your second matrix here, so you would have clicked clear once you've done your 3 by 3. Click on options. Now this option button in the top left is very useful for any of the matrix options. Click the options, you need to select option 1 for define matrix, and then you need to select option 2 for edit matrix B. Enter your dimensions. This is a 3 by 1, so it's 3050, and then after you've done that, hit clear, and then using your options button, select matrix A, and then you want to invert that matrix, so you need this power of -1 button on your calculator. Then you times that by option number 2, which will give you matrix B, and then you press equals on that, and you get your answers, which are, let's record those, SA, SS, and P. 1,000 for the savings account, 500 for the stocks and shares, and 1,500 for the pension. Let's just make sure that a couple of these equations make sense. Add them all up and you get 3,000. Yep. 3 times the stocks and shares will give you the pension. Yep. Okay, so that makes sense according to our question there. Okay, so that's our final answer. Let's just check how much of each financial asset he invests initially. Yep, those are our answers there. So maybe I'll write down to finish this: savings account equals 1,000. Stocks and shares equals 500, and pension equals 1,500. Great, 6 marks.